60% of water bodies in Ghana are polluted by the chemicals that are used in illegal mining. And for most of these chemicals, we are not even able to treat the water for the specific chemicals like mercury. And so this can end up building up in humans and in animals, ending up causing devastating health risk and health challenges to people who consume water from these rivers, which is everybody in Ghana. And so this is a very pressing issue Ghanaians have been complaining about for as long as I can remember. And finally, a few days ago, some brave Ghanaians decided to hit the streets and protest against Galamsey and demand that the government ends all type of illegal mining activities immediately. But they were met with a rather unfortunate response, which we are going to be discussing in this video. So I know it's a bit long, but please try to stay to the end to understand everything that has happened over the course of the last week, the way forward, and what the people who are currently in custody may be facing. Thank you and enjoy the video.
I'm doing okay, and you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing amazing. Can you tell us a little about you before we get into it?
Oh, okay. My name is Mamia Majuma. I am a lawyer by profession, and yeah, basically, you were kind enough to extend the invitation to me to lend a voice concerning the very topical issue of the Galamsey protest and the legal underpinnings behind that. So that is what has occasioned the meeting today. So I'm hoping that we can have a very interactive and educative discussion moving on so that we can both share ideas. I can bring in the legal inputs. You can also bring yours, and we can make the most out of the meeting at the end of the day.
Very well put. So you know the gist of it. I think about 3 days ago, they started the Stop Galamsey Now, a protest against the illegal mining in Ghana, and a few of them got into some illegal things. You've seen the videos. Some of them were pushing against the police barricades. I saw another video of them blocking the roads. I think we should even go systematically.
Okay, so before I move on, I just want to shed a bit of light briefly on protests.
Okay.
Public reaction to it, the laws governing it, just to give a background to guide us whilst we delve into the discussion.
Amazing.
Okay. So, first of all, as human beings, resistance is very normal, especially when something does not augur well for our being or for our interest.
Okay.
It's normal to raise protest, or it's normal to want to ask questions, or it's normal to bring across your misgivings, however you may decide to put it. It's normal. So it is also recognized that under law, it's the same way. Mm-hmm. And of course, I don't think I even need to go as far back as how far our history as Ghana or as Ghanaians have come. That, before independence or the pre-independence era, we had a lot of tyranny and autocratic rule. We have had a fair share of that.
We did.
And then the march or the walk towards independence has been a long-standing one. We have had pioneers who till date we credit with the fact that they have independence that we are in. So, in summary, you can see that our system, pre-independence, our system has shifted from that colonial tyrannical rule where people were not able to concerns or, learn the problems that were blatant, our public well-being as Ghanaians and our public well-being as citizens of Ghana, for that matter.
Okay.
And we have been ushered into a democratic dispensation. That is one of the things that we need to acknowledge. So for now, and in this modern dispensation, Ghana has been termed as a democratic country or a democracy. So one of the things, democracy, but I want to notice that democracy is not limited to just, public interest. It is rather a mixed system where there is transparency, there is ease for people to be able to voice their concerns, to state what they think our leaders or those in power can do to aid in the smooth running of our system, be it our social system, our economic system, regardless of whichever sector of our economy that we are allowed to. It goes beyond that. It is a rather broad fold. But, the right to protest is one of them. That is what we need to understand. So democracy is not all about my right, I have to voice it. It's bigger than that. But of course, the ambit is that it gives you the right as a citizen to be able to. That is how come, day in and day out, you see that people are granting interviews, people are being able to go on radio and media to say that, things are going so badly in this country, things are being malhandled in this country, this is going well, that is not going well. That is why people are, because of course, pre-independence wouldn't be able to have that liberty to say that. But now, because we have been ushered into a new dispensation, you have that liberty to do so. So that is really the whole aspect of, a democratic dispensation. One of them is the right to protest.
Okay.
That is one of the hallmarks of a democratic system or a democratic governance, so to speak.
And destroyed, and I don't even know.
I
don't even know if I'm drinking mercury because I heard the Ghana water.
You can't really tell. It's an eyesore. Seeing pictures and whatnot from social media, it's a very crippling social issue that has affected our society today, and it's not even a matter of recent time. It has been going on, but this time around, it seems to have reared its ugly head yet again in a much more massive form.
I read somewhere that I think this is an even dated. The people who are protesting are quite fairly what's the word? They are no battery. The actions of the pushing against the police barricade, like blocking the road.
Yeah.
Are these warranted? Like, think about it. What do you think about that?
I would want to address that question in two folds.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, because before anything else, or before me being a lawyer, I am also a citizen of Ghana. So I would want to put myself in two shoes. The point of view of the aggrieved citizen, and also coming from the standpoint as an officer of the law, regarding the fact that, I'm a legal professional.
Yeah.
So as a citizen, it is very much logical, the reaction and then the public outrage we are experiencing because of the Galamsey. I think that even in the course of the outrage, it is commendable because it is showing that as citizens, we care.
We do.
Because if we didn't care, we wouldn't protest. And I think that the care is, of course, very well warranted because it's not about how damaged our system is, but it's about being able to lend your voice to, in the least way, just draw to the attention of those in power that what is going on is very terrible. What is going on is heartbreaking. And then Ghana is not just Ghana as we see it now. It needs to be preserved for generations to come because tomorrow we might not be here, our great-grandchildren. It's not about you being able to even afford the tickets to leave the country and then say that, look, I can afford the better life out there. So I'd rather stay there and then leave Ghana for those who are suffering to suffer in it. That is not patriotism.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, wherever you find yourself, the fact that you are a citizen of Ghana, you literally have Ghanaian blood running through you, this problem would obviously affect you in one way or the other.
Of course.
So I think that, first of all, it's very logical that we show concern for that. And it's not just an unjustified concern. This is a problem that is causing so much harm, even to the various sectors of the economy. We have people who are illegally mining. You pass by water bodies. You can't even see the purity of the water. You can't even see.
It's very turbid. It's bad.
It has gone beyond even just destroying water bodies. It has degraded surroundings, the environment. And we have people continuously doing this and benefiting from this at the expense of the welfare of Ghanaians. Yeah. So it's very, very logical that public outrage is expected.
And it seems Ghanaians are helpless because as I stated in now, everybody knows about Galamsey. It's destroying rivers. It's destroying lands. It's destroying everything. And there was that report by the chairman of the interministerial committee for the Galamsey, and it was stated in that report the people who were involved in or who were implicated or whatever in blocking the fight against Galam, seems nobody really cares about it, right? So at this point, what else can Ghanaians do?
That is where the issue of the right to demonstrate comes in.
Yeah.
Because with this very palpable social issue, by law, you have the right to use your voice.
Mm-hmm.
You have the right to protest, to bring to the attention of every single person, to bring to the attention of our leaders that, look, this problem is very groveling. It is seeping into our welfare, and it is detracting from the fact that we are not even basic amenities such as water have been impurified by these activities. So that is why, and that is when the right to protest, we take the stand, because it is affecting us adversely, and it appears that not much attention is being given to it. That is why we are using our voice, which of course we are backed by law to do.
Good.
But it is two things. We have the voice, yes, to protest, obviously. We have the means to do so. But it is also one thing to ensure that you follow due process.
Mm-hmm.
To ensure that, in any normal situation, you can disagree with somebody. Let's say it's you and somebody, right? You can disagree with somebody on how they are handling something. But as to how you articulate that concern or how you articulate those grievances is where usually the problem comes in.
Yeah.
Because you see, the right to protest, it's normal. It is a guaranteed right, even under law, under Article 21, if you check the Constitution, the right to protest, and convene for whatever cause. This is very much logical. But the law is that, this is where my professional stand view or my professional perspective comes in. The law is that when you want to protest, the police, because in the Constitution, it's the police that is primarily mandated with the maintenance of law and order in the country.
Yeah, which they did, right? They did. The Democracy Hub.
They did. So I just want to extensively discuss that part.
Okay.
The law is that you notify them. And why is it so? Because, truth be told, you can't always foretell how a demonstration will turn out. These are angry people, logically angry people, emotionally angry people who are coming forward to articulate their concerns. People are upset at the fact that these wrongdoers or those engaging in illegal mining are not even being prosecuted in the right way. These people are having a field day, being able to, engage in these activities at the expense of Ghanaians, and then nothing is being done.
Are actually feeling the effects, because I think in the areas around the Galamsey sides, people are being born with deformities. That's what I've heard. People are being born with 4 legs, and I think
it's very serious. For one, I usually even go to Takwa for work. When you are going to Takwa, you can always see from the water bodies that they've been so immensely polluted. So it's such a shame to see all this going on. And then it appears that not a lot is being done to ensure that all these things are brought to the barest minimum, if possible. So, you see, as I was saying, the stand view is that you notify the police, as I said, because they have been primarily charged with the maintenance of law and order in this country. This is not even my, personal input. This is what the law says, that you notify them. You notify them so that, because as I said, you can't really foretell. It will obviously start out as, we want to peacefully protest. But you know how when people are very involved in their emotions, things can escalate.
I know, yeah.
People might be moving on all right. They will be going on processions on the road and whatnot in the name of being able to, alleviate the problem that the Galamsey is posing. But you can't always foretell. It may start peacefully and it may take a different turn and it may turn out violently. Yeah. So you can't always, preempt what would happen if a demonstration. That is why you need to notify the police. Now, when you notify them, what they are supposed to do is that they are supposed to guide you. That, okay, you want to demonstrate. Use route A, B, C, D, and E, and F. But don't use JKLM because of public safety, because of public security, because of these reasons. That is how it is supposed to turn out. That is true.
So if I have the right to convene and share my
this has been empowered by law with the germane role of maintenance of law and order. Okay. Demonstrations are a public activity.
Okay.
It is not you and me. It is going to affect, if we decide to demonstrate, we are going to go out to use roads, which are obviously reserved for public use. We are going to use roads. We are going to use passage routes that the public uses day in and day out. Yeah. That is why the police needs to come into play. So it is not that, okay, I have the right, so let me just stand up and do everything. If you are sitting in your house or in the comfort of your home to demonstrate, that one, for instance, it's not even a public activity. You are sitting in your house and you are probably on the radio demonstrating or something. That one is different. Okay. But then once it is taken outside the realms of the four corners of somebody's home, and then it is out there, it is communal, it is public for all and sundry to see, it becomes a matter of public order. And you know, when two or more people are gathered, especially for to make a very strong political statement, or let me say a strong societal statement, like stop Galamsey and all, there needs to be some order to curb it.
Yep.
So it's not that, you get up, and because if they are also to close a blind eye to it, and you have to look at it from the standpoint that, it is my right, so I'm going to start the protest from, 37 up until reach. All that side, you've forgotten that, the Flagstaff House, for instance, is there. Yeah. Even when you take a car, right, not to digress, but when you take a car, let's say you're in a church or you are in a private vehicle and you are going towards Accra, when you get to the 37 side, the drivers don't usually, especially around the Flagstaff area, no car stops there, unless, of course, it is because of traffic. Yeah. Because it is deemed as it is a security zone. That is where the president resides. If anyone is allowed to, or if it is open to public use, said that anyone can come and stop there, or you can foretell what would happen in the future if such unlimited access is granted to people. And I would also say that the demonstration is not really about the routes that you use. It is more or less the awareness that you are creating. You get it? It is not about being able to use to convey a message, or to be able to use in front of 37 to be able to convey the message that you stop Galamsey. It is not the routes that it's about. It is more or less the adequacy of the information or the message that you want to get across. Yeah. So once it is taken out of the private context and it's become a public, situation where people are engaging in procession and whatnot, there has to be some order. Okay. Because if right now one protester says this, another one says, and then they start fighting and all, without any guidance, things could, escalate and spiral out of control.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then if there's nobody to check it, or if the police closes their eyes to it, and let's say that through such unfortunate incidents, innocent protesters die or are injured, then really the maintenance of law and order factor is defeated.
Okay.
Because just because you are allowed to protest also does not in any way guarantee that it's okay to have brushes or skirmishes with the law.
So you still need to follow the law. You still need to follow the law.
You still need to follow the law. That was why I made a statement that it is very much that, look, you can have a voice to do the right thing. You can have a very strong perspective, or you could have a very correct view on how something should work. But if there has been a mechanized view or a particular procedure that you are supposed to follow, and then you don't do it, and then the outcome is most likely to cause more harm than good, then you have not really articulated your concerns or voice in the right manner.
Okay, so that brings us to the activities or some of the actions the protesters engaged in, like the blocking of the road, sleeping on the road, and the burning of party.
All of that is against the law. There are laws, you see, because, as I said, from my stand view as a citizen, it is completely logical that people are angry. Yeah. But it is one thing to be furious, and it is one thing to also engage in certain things or certain acts or doings.
Is this the first time? Is it the first time these things are happening in the protest?
No, by and large, whenever you hear situations where protests have been, you may have situations where no damage as to property or loss of life whatsoever. But in societally charged events like this, protests like this, where people are angry and furious at what is going on with respect to the Galamsey, it is very logical that they may want to take their anger out and do certain things. It is logical. But the fact that it is logical does not also make it right.
All right.
It's like someone forgetting you angry. It is true that you could have been pushed to the edge, but it does not make slapping somebody or hitting somebody okay in that situation.
Okay, so if I'm getting you, you're saying the thought and the idea, the protest is right, but some of the actions that some of the protesters involved themselves in were wrong.
Because I had a chance to also see some of the videos. I did see some of the videos on social media.
Yes.
Twitter and whatnot, people banging on private vehicles, moving barricades. It wasn't really, you can't close your eyes to the fact that that constitutes, or that appears to constitute lawlessness.
And it wasn't really about it was about something else. It was kind of deviating from what they were there to do. They were there to protest against Galamsey and not to.
And then from what I even read from the summary of facts on the charge sheet that the accused persons were charged with, the summary of the facts was stating that the police indicated that you can use certain routes, but don't use certain routes. And it was the routes that they were asked not to use that they attempted to. That was where a lot of the problems stemmed from. So you see, in the midst of obviously carrying out something that we are, as citizens, we are constitutionally empowered to do. You cannot also close your eyes to the fact that you are breaching the law. So that is in my view. That is why I was saying that I'll discuss it in two perspectives. That as a citizen, I completely understand. I myself would not even advocate for the fact that we should keep silent or keep our arms folded, considering the blatant damage that Galamsey is causing. It's an eyesore, and you can't simply keep quiet. And part of being even a commendable citizen is that when very purgent social issues like this come up, you should be able to lend your voice. That's cool. In lending your voice, change can come. So I would obviously and 100% advocate for that. That when there are very pressing social issues like this, as citizens, it is extremely commendable that we speak out on such matters. We let those in power know that, or that we let the government know that it is not okay to cause such harm to our resources when there are things that can be done to curb it, but nothing is being done, and then if we are having to face the dire consequences of that.
And as we all know, this has been going on for a while, and we are facing the challenges now. So if it continues to go on like this and nothing is being done about it, what other options are left for the citizens to do? Can we go into the forest reserves, the areas where people are doing these activities? That's kind of a patriotic act. To me, it seems like a patriotic act. You go to protect what belongs to you, what is giving you water and other resources, right? So is it right in the eyes of the law to go and do that?
There are, of course, a number of ways that you may want to think about when you are thinking of how to possibly, ameliorate the harsh consequences that have been posed by this, Galamsey problem. As citizens, one of the ways is to also protest. There is also obviously creating awareness or education. But I would always say that, look, quite frankly, obviously on paper, they would say that, more awareness should be created. But I feel like awareness alone is not enough.
It's definitely not enough.
It's not enough. Do you think those who are engaging in the Galamsey don't know that it is illegal? Of course they know.
Everybody is aware.
Of course, everybody knows. So I always say that I wouldn't 100% stand behind just this public education or creating more awareness. They know. But right now, I feel that we need a lot of plans of action, a lot of affirmative actions.
And that is out of the hands of the citizens. That will be on the part of the Is it the judiciary and the legislative body and the administration?
Well, we can have the legislative interplay, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
We can have that. That now, when you are talking of even the legal aspects, we are talking about the executive instruments. We are talking about the role of the judiciary. We are talking about the role of the legislature. Yeah. All of these arms of government are supposed to have a concerted or coordinated effort to ensure that this social canker is,
eradicated,
cut down to the barest minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not even only on the part of the these arms of government, as citizens as well. Of course, if you come across, as you made mention of a point, that if you come across, or it comes to your knowledge, or you witness that certain people are actively, engaging in Galamsey, nothing bars you from actually reporting them to the police. Nothing stops you, actually. But then again, another problem also stems from the fact that, I don't know the statistics on that, but people also feel that if they are reporting these problems, what is even the guarantee that they will be handled in the appropriate way? Because if they would have. So that's also another issue.
Yeah.
That's
the question I'm trying to ask.
Yeah.
Because we are saying it's a democracy, but our voices are not being heard. We do what we are supposed to. It's as if our hands are tied and we don't really know what to do. We don't know what to turn. The question I'm trying to ask is this the farthest we can go, protesting as citizens? What else can we do to make our voices heard? To actually effect a change? Or is it all left in the hands of those leading us?
I wouldn't really say it was all left in the hands of the states. Because justice really does reside in the people, and as citizens, obviously, protest is one way. I have talked to a couple of people that also feel that being able to petition the state that this is what is going on. We need to have certain big laws passed to regulate these activities. We need to ensure that these people are actually prosecuted if it comes to the knowledge of, the police or even the state, that they are engaging in such activities. These people need to be prosecuted and made to face the full rigors of the law. So that is also one thing. But if we have been able to go as far as protest, which I also believe that it's also a very magnanimous right. Right now, it is like, although in the heat of everything, certain issues have been occasioned, people have been arrested, unfortunately, and whatnot. We have been able to get our message across.
Yep.
Now, we would have to wait and see the response of the government with respect to these things. I just saw that the Office of the Special Prosecutor intends to conduct investigations with respect to the Galamsey.
Yeah.
This is what we have seen now.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have to wait to see how things turn out.
Okay.
But I think that on our part, for instance, as citizens, if it comes to your knowledge that you know somebody engaging or you witnessed it, that is what I said. It appears to be a dead end, because you may want to go and lay a complaint at the police station. Even when you go, you will not even be given the listening ear that you want.
Because
people are not being motivated to go and lay a complaint.
And you may be reporting to someone who is also involved, because we know there are people in those places who are involved in these activities.
It's rather, this goes beyond more of a social problem. I think that everybody has a part to play in this. Citizens, the state, governmental institutions, and whatnot. Because as we have rightly discussed, if you go and you go and report to someone who probably even knows about it and is keeping quiet over it, then it brings us to a dead end. We are back to square one.
Yeah, so
we are back to square one.
It brings this weird thing about the system, because it's fine. Democracy is amazing. We love it, but there are also parts of it which it doesn't help anybody, because with this particular thing we are talking about, the farthest you can go is reporting the case and leaving it up to them to do the due process. And if they decide not to, or if they receive orders from above, which we are going to be talking about soon, then they will not go ahead to do anything about it, right?
Yeah. So. In fact, so a lot of times you see on paper, you are taught that, oh, this is democracy, these are the tenets of democracy. You should be able to speak out against such pressing social issues. You should be able to hold leaders accountable if their things are not going smoothly as planned. But you look at it, the implementation of the law and how pragmatic these words of the law appear when you look in practice as to sometimes you see it happening, sometimes you do not. So people are even forced to say that, look, the whole theory of democracy, it then appears to be a bookish concept, because you are taught that, oh, you can advocate for these social issues that are bothering us as a country. You can hold our leaders responsible, that they need to go a step further. They need to go the extra mile to ensure that all these social things are kept. And then really, in implementation, you might not be seeing that. So you are forced to come to the conclusion that, look, does this whole issue of democracy really exist? Because even before law, in social studies, children are taught. You are taught in social studies, in history, that, oh, democracy is this. Even Abraham Lincoln stated that it is government of the people by the people and for the people. But in actuality, you don't tend to see that. You might not see that. If there's anything that you might not see that. So, and at the beginning of the call, I also made mention that democracy is not just freedom of protest or freedom to raise protest. It goes beyond that. It is a broader ambit that enables that people have a more emancipated system that allows them, or that augurs well for their development. But I mean, that's what appears on paper, but in practice or different. In everyday life, we tend to see a bit of a contrast in that. So you are inclined to believe that maybe, just perhaps, democracy is just really a mystical thought. It's just a fallacy.
It's an idea.
Exists, but it is thought, but we see it differently. So
so that brings us to the next thing I want to talk about. People committed crimes, right? And they were arrested, but the police did not make their whereabouts known to their lawyers. They weren't even given. And I've been told, I've seen that when you're arrested, you're supposed to be told the crimes you committed and be given the right to legal counsel, which were all not done.
Present,
Yes. So about the story or the idea of democracy, in that case, I can also say the police service and our security service was not being democratic at that moment. They were quite unlawful. Would that be right?
Unlawful. Okay. What I would say is that, as we have earlier on mentioned, there appeared to be some breaches of the law during this protest.
On both sides.
Of course, which a blind eye cannot be turned to. Granted. But in as much as the person has breached the law, obviously there's a way to go about it. The Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, has stated that in Article 19, even the Criminal Procedure Code, which is the law that regulates how, criminal offenses are tried in Ghana, also states this. When a person is arrested or is caught breaching a law, it is not that you just go and then pick up the person and do whatever you want with the person. Rightfully speaking, when the person is arrested, the person ought to be made known of what their charges are, or whatever charges are being brought against them, or whatever they are being charged with at that point in time. You have to be made known. That's fact one. You also have to be, it has to be explained to you in a language that you understand. Obviously, you will not have every Tom, Dick, and Harry being very, articulate, or let me say literate. Some people obviously might not understand English, but you should be able to tell them the reason for which they are being picked up, because being picked up by the police or being incarcerated by the police is not a matter for jest or banter. It is a serious matter. It does not happen every day.
Should it be done right at that moment of arrest, or when you're taken into custody, like to the police station or something? When
it should be done at the time that you are being arrested.
Okay.
At the time that you are being arrested, right? The charges should be stated to you. It should be explained in language that you understand. You should be made aware that you have the right to legal representation, because at that point in time, you, the person who has been arrested, let me say at that point, you might most likely be a detainee, because maybe you've not been charged yet. Maybe you're even being arrested based on reasonable suspicion. But reasonable suspicion does not mean that you have been charged with an offense.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
So if you are arrested, a detainee or an accused person, as the case may be, is allowed to also understand that, look, we are taking you to a police station for allegedly having had brushes or clashes with the law, but you have the right to legal counsel, and
which
this
is
is so because
which is the case in this situation.
Because, they were alleged to have engaged in. I had the chance to look at the charge sheets. They were alleged to have engaged in unlawful assembly, assault of a public officer, damaging properties and whatnot.
Conspiracy to commit crime.
Conspiracy to commit unlawful assembly and the substantive offense of unlawful assembly. And also, these were the charges that were laid out on the charge sheets.
Right.
Now, this is what has happened. Granted, the people have allegedly breached the law. Granted. But then there's a way to go about it. The fact that somebody may have seemingly had issues with the law does not detract from the fact that really the person ought not be mistreated, or the person ought not be more handled, because there's a procedure for going through with arrest. That's why there's something that constitutes lawful arrest. There's something that constitutes unlawful arrest, such that if you have even been unlawfully arrested, you can bring an action to that effect.
So were these unlawful arrests?
Well, one may be inclined to, you might be inclined to conclude that way, because if you look at it, what is stated in the letter of the law to constitute lawful arrest was not implemented. From what from what we have seen, from videos and whatnot, and from even different lawyers who have been able to have the opportunity to represent some of these accused persons, they have also confirmed that they who had firsthand dealt with these people have been able to confirm that these people their charges were not stated to them or read out to them. They were denied legal counsel, they were forcibly taken and whatnot. And even with arrest, the amount of force we may implement, you don't just apply force when somebody is being arrested. Usually it is when the person appears to be revolting or showing signs of hostility. That is when the force is applied. And even that force, if the police is even applying that force, it ought to be proportionate. It ought to be proportionate. It's not that, maybe the person is hesitating, you're knocking or slapping the person, and maybe the person is asking question, why are you arresting me? And then you start slapping them. That, to me, is not okay. I mean, so there's a way to go about such arrest, because even the fact that a person has been arrested does not take away the basic
human rights
principle that they are still humans, they are still entitled to rights. They should be treated with dignity, so to speak. So assuming without admitting that they have even committed all these offenses, I do believe that due process ought to have been followed, at least from what we have seen. And from what we know the law to be, the due process ought to have been followed, even especially with respect to legal representation, which is very key. People don't know, obviously, if you are not even a lawyer or in the legal sphere, you don't really know what the law says with respect to certain things. You don't know. If you are caught and you go to a police station, they don't even tell you that you have the right to legal counsel. And they tell you that, look, give your statement. You, out of fear, and look, so many things may come into play. You may just say things. You may even seemingly implicate yourself when in actual fact, you have nothing to do with whatever charge is being laid against you. That is why it's important for you to have a lawyer with you. The lawyer can tell you, look, go along this line. say this, say this, say that, say that. Because it is by virtue of your own statements that certain charges can be brought against you.
Okay.
Or you would be tried in the court of law. So it's also very important that you have that.
Okay, so the police service knows this, right? They should know this. And they somehow did not implement these actions, right? The people were hidden, so to speak, from their lawyers.
Yeah, that's what we have heard. Yeah.
Yes. And when the lawyers from the Democracy Hub went to some of the police stations, they were told that the police had received orders from above to not allow them to see their lawyers, to in some cases not even reveal if some of the arrested people were in
their custody.
Exactly. Yeah. What is that about? I thought we were talking about democracy and we practicing democracy.
Okay, so you see, when you say generally, when you talk about orders from above, it means that it is a directive from a higher body, a higher power to do something. More often than not, so in our context, for instance, it can be coming from the Ministry of Justice. It can be coming from a particular ministry, so-called orders or order from above. And then obviously, if they give such directives, it is very paramount that the directives are backed by law.
Okay.
Let me give a slight example before we move on. In the Constitution, the president has the right to declare a state of emergency. He has the right to, so he can get up and declare. So that is when you see that, curfews are being imposed here and there and whatnot. It is true. But then, you see, he can't get up and then say that, today is Friday. I feel like declaring a state of emergency in Ghana. So let me go ahead and do it. It is backed by law. So even if these higher powers give a directive, it ought to be backed by law. And if it contravenes an existing law, then that is where the problem comes in.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Because, so obviously, a ministry or a minister can give directives. They may be empowered by an executive power to do that. They are allowed to give directives. But
okay.
No, let's take away, or before we delve into the order from above in context of this protest, they are allowed to give directives. If they come out to say today that, we should continue to pay these tolls to this and this and this,
we have no option.
These directives are backed by law. Okay. True. So this order from above, more often than not, they're supposed to, in my very clear understanding, they're supposed to be backed by law. They're supposed to be backed by law. Otherwise, it will be seen as the person in power is being capricious, because you can't just wake up and say something or give a directive which is not backed by law.
So do you know the law which backs? Do you know the law? What law backs this action to hide the people from their lawyers and deny them?
No, there's no law. There's no law to that effect. That's what I was coming.
Oh, okay.
That was where I was coming to that. Generally. So I was just giving insight as to orders from above. Simply speaking, outside the context of even this demonstration, that they ought to be, because not forgetting that every part of our system, our governance is backed by law. All the ministers, parliamentarians, as if they all work with laws. So really, law is like the social fabric of our society. We can't do away with that. So these people, as I said, they are allowed to give directives. They can say that, look, today everybody should do this. Or if they say that, we are blocking this road and this road because of this and that, it's understandable. But it needs to be backed by law. It needs to be backed by law.
Okay.
So that is one thing. And now we are going to face the order from above context into the status quo, into the current situation as to this protest and whatnot. Yeah. I believe I've already walked you through the legal aspect of, what it takes to when you are arrested, your rights, whatnot. Yeah. The fact that you are arrested does not deprive you of certain basic rights, like the right to legal representation whatsoever. So, it is not, obviously, I saw on a lot of social media posts, and even directly from lawyers who had been trying to reach clients, or some of those who had been held in police custody, that when they went, they were not allowed to see their clients or even talk to them because of orders from above. But you know that orders from above do not constitute law.
Mm-hmm.
Orders from above are not laws. In light of certain happenings, they might appear to be law because it is coming from a person with authority or a person who has a statutorily backed or supported authority. But just because that person says it does not make an order from above law.
Yeah.
Orders from above, in my honest view, are not laws.
Okay.
They are not laws. True, those in power or the government has the right to pronounce certain directives. But even with that, it should be in accordance with law. Just because, let's say, Minister A says that, I'm going to do that, does not make it a law. That is why there are certain situations where the constitutionality of something that a minister is doing can be challenged. Even the constitutionality of a particular law can be challenged. That is why we see that day in and day out, people are even taking actions to the Supreme Court for interpretation that, look, this law violates the letter and then the spirit of the Constitution. So you do realize that it is not a blanket provision, so to speak. And if, of course, let's say that, let me take us back to COVID. Let's say that the president came and said that, in light of COVID, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Even with that, it needs to be supported by law.
Okay.
It needs to be cogently supported by law. A person in authority cannot just stand and say certain things or say it is orders from above, it is this. When, of course, maybe there are existing legal provisions or legal rights to the contrary, that is where the problem stems. So a lot of the public outcry can be seen to stem from the fact that you, as lawyers, you go to prison or you go to cells, you want to see your client, you want to talk to them so that you can see the way forward. And then you are being prohibited from seeing it. Already, you have denied the person the right to legal representation.
Yes.
So, and then in the name of orders from above. So there's a friction there. Now, orders from above and then the Constitution. Which one is more superior? And obviously, everybody knows, even I do believe that people outside the legal sector or the legal sphere know that the Constitution is obviously the highest law of the land.
Yeah.
But, in practicality, you may have the contrary happening, which is where a lot of the public outrage is stemming from.
Yeah.
And I've even had chance, even on the regular, when you talk to other lawyers, sometimes they tell you that when you go to prison, they want to talk to their clients who have been charged with maybe specific offenses. They can wait hours on end. Maybe unknown to you, your client is not even in this. It's not even in custody at that point. Maybe he has remitted to another place.
Wow.
But you may be standing there. So it's unfortunate, It's rather unfortunate that
is it because of the systems in our country? Is it because of the country we are in?
I would say that even from the little I've seen and even from past times, you can realize that a lot of the times what we are taught to anticipate or what we are taught to be in the background of our mind as to what relates to lawful arrest, democracy, and what sort, in actuality, it does not happen.
Okay. More
often than not, it does not happen. That's where a lot of the problems are. So the people also feel that, look, there is a governing law. Even if the person has breached it, the person obviously has rights to legal counsel, and that should not, under any circumstance, be deprived.
So, because they weren't allowed the right to legal counsel, it could have affected the charges which were leveled against them, and they've been put in remand for, I think, 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, could anything have changed?
Yes. For instance, I got to understand the fact that some of these persons who were detained or arrested, some of them didn't have their charges because they didn't have legal representation. They didn't even know the charges that were being proffered against them.
Being picked up by the police. What do you have to say to this?
Why have I been picked up? We don't know why we've been picked up. They hit my breast. They hit the back of my neck. And I was only saying that they had it.
Until they were arraigned before the circuit court,
Yeah.
like what we saw in the videos. So that means at the time that the person was even entering the courtroom, he or she did not know what they had been, charged with or what they are being accused of.
Oh.
And from videos, you could even see that there are people who are innocent bystanders who have been made to pay a very high price. Because I happen to have seen a video of a man who was in white, and he was saying that he was even just on the way from church. And they were all just muddled with those who were actually involved in destruction of properties and whatever charges have been laid against the accused person. So we have innocent people being muddled into all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that the situation could have taken a rather different turn if they had legal counsel at the beginning.
Okay.
Because when you are taken into custody, you are giving your statement.
Yeah.
As you take something that's termed investigation caution statement. You are giving your statement. That is where they tell you that whatever you say or do will be used against you in court.
Yes.
So you are supposed to be mindful of whatever you put on your caution statement, because that is what the prosecution is even going to stand on to prosecute you throughout the trial. And you know that being in police custody is not a game for it's not just for game, or it's not even a light-hearted situation that you want to make fun of.
Yeah.
It can push you to so much pressure, and you can have unfortunate situations where people are so pressed or even so afraid of just the fact that they are in police custody that let me confess so that maybe if I confess they will leave it. Maybe they didn't actually commit it, but out of duress or out of circumstantial coercion, the situation has appeared to have coerced them. The person did not genuinely do it, but you don't have a lawyer. You don't have someone to tell you that don't say this, don't say that. State the thing as it happened in this trial, not to obviously say that you should make up or concoct stories, but state it in such a way that you will not be indicting or implicating yourself in any way or form. Now you are not availed that opportunity. It is just you and the police in custody. You may have been beaten to pulp. You may have been beaten during that time. You may have been harassed. You will feel that, look, if I can even say that I did it, maybe that alone will let them go. Some people have even come out several times to say that, look, the officers or some people who will tell, when they're arrested, they tell them that, you confess, and then maybe if you confess, maybe the circumstances or the repercussions will be relatively lighter. But if you are in such a situation very pressed, you may even find yourself even admitting to or confessing to having engaged in an unlawful act or an offense when in actual fact you didn't. But the circumstances would push you to. So if you have a legal counsel, like the person will be able to calm you down and listen, don't say it like this. Do it like this. Because we have been in the system, but you didn't have that. And now you have such people or these people being taken to court, and then their charges were read to them in the courtroom the first time.
Yeah, is there nothing in the law protecting these people? Because their rights had obviously not been... because we all know they needed the legal counsel, but that was not granted to them. They didn't know what they were being accused of until they went to court, and among the other things.
Okay, so there's a provision in the Constitution that also talks about the fact that for someone who has been unlawfully prosecuted, you can bring an action against the state. For recovery of, even for compensation. But, in such situations, especially if you are going to go down that the system is so mechanized or marginalized to the fact that before you even get to the part where you are entitled to compensation, it will have taken so many years or such a long time. You might even feel that, look, let me just give it. I don't even want to bother about it. There is one such remedy for cases like this, or there's also an action in torts where it is called bringing an action for unlawful arrest in such a situation. So, as I have already stated, there are situations that constitute unlawful arrest, right? Like using, unreasonable force, not telling the person what he's been charged with, and all of that. there is an action in court that supports that, which is called unlawful arrest.
Okay.
So there is also the constitutional aspect of being wrongfully prosecuted. There is unlawful arrest, and basically legal action in either of these realms will suffice.
Okay.
But sometimes even with the compensation parts that I mentioned that the Constitution guarantees, it is not always really, in some situations, it's not even the money that you are looking for. It is the fact that you have been violated, and then you feel that you need to be compensated, or you just need to have some sort of clarity to it. It's not even really about
the
money, because in such situations, money cannot really take away maybe emotional stress or emotional trauma that you would have gone through. Because just on the side, I recently watched a criminal law documentary.
And what has transpired, does this constitute unfair trial?
Well, to a very great extent, you can say that. Because especially as to the fact that before the person even entered the courtroom, our legal system is even premised on fair hearing. There is something that we call audio terum partem rule, which means that it's essentially the right to audio terum partem rule.
Okay.
It means the right to fair hearing. And this thing does not even stem from just law alone. It actually stems from the Bible, if you look in it. The right to fair hearing, that a man be heard before he is even prosecuted.
Okay.
So, linking it to law, we realize that the right to fair hearing is not just, the fact that it should exist in the courtroom. It should start from the moment that a person has even been arrested. For instance, before they enter the courtroom, they should know which charges that have been brought against them. If the person can, legal counsel is being given to the person. Now you and a lawyer go into the courtroom to battle it, to be able to get some sort of leverage as to how things could go on. Because from all that we've seen so far regarding the updates, we are even made aware that some people did not understand. Some of the lawyers, the charges were read or brought to their attention in the courtroom without any adequate notice. And that is more or less like ambush. That is what I would call ambush litigation.
Okay.
Ambush litigation. The justice system is not supposed to operate that way, in my opinion.
Because it seemed planned to deter people from protesting.
It appears to be an orchestrated attack, but I would not land on that for just yet. It appears to be. It appears to be, because of how the situations have been stemming or the turnout of events in these recent days, it appears to be an attack on that.
By what body? Isn't the orders, the people giving the orders, the people above who are giving the orders to the police?
I wouldn't really affiliate it to a specific person, but obviously we know that power resides in different bodies, different institutions, different bodies, different individuals. They are, they wield the constitutional power, especially with respect to situations like this. So I wouldn't even attribute it to, it is the police. It is this minister. It is that minister. They are obviously, we can't pinpoint one person. That is what I would say. You cannot pinpoint one person. But I would say that in the recent turnout of events, that, it appears to be an orchestrated attack, unfortunately.
Okay. And they were denied bail too?
Yes, from what I have heard.
And I think to be denied bail, there are some things that will have to be suspected, right? Maybe you will flee if you are let go. What are the things? If you are a public threat, we have 10 minutes to these categories. So why then are they still being held in custody?
Okay. So, obviously, the right to bail is guaranteed by the Constitution. If you check Article 14, Clause 1 of Article 14 and Clause 3 of Article 14, the joint reading of that points to the fact that the right to bail is guaranteed for accused persons or people who have been held in custody. And then it is also important to that the right to bail is not automatic. It is true. The current law in Ghana is that all offenses are bailable, no matter the degree of the offense.
Okay.
Once you are charged, you can apply for bail.
Okay.
That is the law. But you're also supposed to understand that bail is not automatic. I think that's where a lot of the public misconception stems from.
Okay.
It is not that, okay, it's my right, so even if I've been arrested, I have to be given bail. No. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The law is that when you are charged, even before you are charged, there are 3 types of bail. We have the police inquiry bail, we have the bail pending trial, we have bail pending appeal. So obviously, since this matter has not been concluded, it's police custody trial. That is when, maybe the person has been remanded in the police cells. You can go and seek bail for the person at that point in time before they even arraign the person before a competent court of law. But bail pending trial, that means that maybe the person has been arraigned or is yet to be arraigned before a court, but trial has not begun, or maybe trial has begun, but you can bring the application, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, when you take the bail application, it is rooted, there are obviously certain factors that you, the person, have to prove. There are certain grounds that constitute or that will influence the court's grant or otherwise of bail application.
Okay.
But one of the critical things is that you, the accused person, or you, the applicant for the bail, you are going to stand trial at all times until the matter is concluded.
Yeah.
So in being able to show that you are going to religiously stand trial until the matter has been concluded, the courts will look at, or you are supposed to show the court that, you are gainfully employed. Maybe you are an accountant here in Ghana. Maybe you are, a very prominent business owner here in Ghana. You are gainfully employed here. So the chances that you leave everything behind, it's quite unlikely.
Yeah.
It can happen, but it's quite unlikely. So they will look at the fact that, you are gainfully employed. They can even look at the fact as to whether you have family here. Do you have a wife here? Do you have a kid here? Do you have people that depend on you? What is the dependency ratio? How many people depend on you?
Yeah.
Are you likely to leave all of that behind? They're going to look at that. They're also going to look at the fact that, are you likely to run away if bail is being granted? Because some people have and we know it's not the first time, some people have run away when, how do you call it? They are granted bail.
Yeah.
Now, it's the next court date. You can't find the person. And then those who stood surety, guaranteeing the court that, look, on the next court date, the person is going to come. Now, you will be in hot water.
Yeah.
I recently dealt with a case like that. The man came he didn't even understand the implications of standing as a surety for someone who is applying for bail. The person almost escaped, but thankfully he came. And he decided that he wasn't going to stand as surety again.
Anymore. Okay.
So they will look at that. They'll also look at the fact that, are you going to likely tamper with evidence? Maybe your whole office is a crime scene. Maybe your whole house is a crime scene. Are you likely to go and then tamper with something that could help in the identification or in the prosecution of that offense? Are you going to tamper with it? Are you going to threaten very potential witnesses? They are going to look at all of that.
Okay.
So you should be able to...
We can go on.
These are the things you should show. Even if they are, let's say, prevailing medical conditions, for example. Maybe the person is asthmatic. Maybe the person is hypertensive. Maybe the person is expecting.
Yeah.
The person is pregnant at that point in time. That could be a perfect example, a perfect ground to aid the court to understand that, look, because of the underlying health conditions, it's better that the person attends court from home, but the person is going to stand trial. So all these grounds that I have mentioned are geared towards ensuring that the person will stand trial. That is the crucial thing that the court will look at. That is one thing. So it is not that the right to bail is automatic. It is more or less making a prayer to the court that you want the court to grant to your freedom temporarily.
Okay.
So the court is supposed to look at all these factors, and the factors I've mentioned are just a few. It could even be a case-by-case basis. The factors that I've mentioned, the four, 5 factors I have mentioned, that is not all. Every case has its own peculiarities as to what could constitute the fact that it would be expedient to grant the person bail. Do you understand? So the court will look at that. That is what you, on the side of you, the applicant, you, the person seeking to apply for bail, this is what you are supposed to prove. Now on the prosecution side, they are supposed to, if there are any reasonable factors that are supposed to,
bar or prevent the court from granting you your freedom, the prosecution should be able to state it. For example, stating the person as a flight risk. What constitutes flight risk? It is not just me having a passport. No, that's not it. It is the fact that the person can easily abscond the country. You should be able to go into details. Maybe the person has a history of absconding anytime the person is summoned or anytime the court action pops up.
Are you aware of anything like that being said in this particular case?
I saw people making statements to that figure. When they went to court, some of the grounds raised by the prosecution was that, they are a flight risk. They are likely to cause more havoc or more confusion if they are released and whatnot. But these are not. These are supposed to be backed. There may be certain things that happen that you and I may not have seen.
Okay.
That would have. Because all we have seen are except footage from parts of the demonstration. Maybe greater things happened before or after the videos that we saw.
Yeah.
So even if the prosecution is going to rely on the fact or certain grounds that they should not be granted, these facts have to be amply supported by evidence.
Okay. Amazing how you put it.
So yeah.
Okay.
So before let me conclude on that. So it is once you say why you think the court should grant you bail, the prosecution decides to oppose the application and brings its respective grounds as to why they should also be granted, why the bill should not be granted. Now the court will look at the circumstances and look at whose favor that the application tilts more towards, and then make a decision. So it's not like because the law says all offenses are bailable.
Yeah.
So you can. That means that once you are arrested, you have to be released. If you think that the person would even be a threat to public safety, you should be able to justify the background. But these were just tidbits and bits of what went down in the courtroom. I have not heard all the arguments, but if you are going to rely on such a ground, there should be ample evidence to support that.
Will there be transcripts of what went on online or anywhere people can go and download to?
Court proceedings are not usually recorded.
Okay.
Court proceedings, unless you decide to go walk in, the court is open to public use, so you can go in and listen to the proceedings for yourself.
Okay.
But more often than not, court proceedings are not recorded.
Okay, sure.
So in addressing the last part of this discussion, basically, and more specifically on my thought on what I think the accused persons may face by way of sentencing, I have a few thoughts on that as well. I think at this point in time, everyone who has been pretty much active on social media and has been following this issue to the letter and very closely would have had the chance to see the charge sheet circulating on social media. So in criminal procedure, a charge sheet is basically, is a document that sets out the respective charges that are being laid out against a person who has been accused of a crime or persons who have been accused of a crime. So we have seen from the charge sheet that they have been charged with offences such as conspiracy to commit unlawful assembly, destruction of property, and assault of a public officer. All these have been laid out on the charge sheet, and it is also important to know that a charge sheet has no limit. It can go on and on and on and on. So that is one point to note. Now, when you look at the charges, obviously, at this point, those whose name appear on the face of the charge sheets are those who have been accused. So it was not all those who were in detention that have been formally charged, at least to the best of my knowledge. It is not all those who were detained that have been charged with these offences that I have spoken of, or these offences that appear on the charge sheet. So it is those who have been listed on the face of the charge sheet who have been charged with this offence. Now, the legal implication, obviously, is that, in fact, for every crime, the penal consequences or the punitive aspect could be you paying a fine, imprisonment in the form of a stipulated period of imprisonment or life imprisonment, and that depends on the nature of the offense. Here in Ghana, offenses are diverse or in diverse categories. We can list different type of offenses: sexual offenses, property offenses, offenses against the state, so many of them. So they can all be categorized as either first degree offenses, second degree offenses, misdemeanors. Yeah, basically these are some of the categories of offenses. So all the offenses that exist here in Ghana can be classified as first degree offenses, second degree offenses, or misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are basically very menial offenses, very minor offenses. They don't usually carry a lot of or heavy penal consequences. You are most likely going to pay a fine. Most of the time you end up paying a fine. That's misdemeanor. It is not every crime. So it depends usually, because if you look in our Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29, it spells out what offences or what actions constitute offences in their respective punishment. Some can be fines, some can be imprisonment, some can be a combination of both. It will solely depend on how the trial turns out, or how the judge will decide to met out the respective punishment based on the existing law. So obviously the unlawful assembly, as I know, it is one of the offenses that the accused persons have been charged with. Some of the charges or some of the crimes that they have been charged with are misdemeanors, do not exactly carry as much weight as the first degree offenses or the second degree offenses, but it also does not detract from the fact that this is what they have been charged with. So now it really does depend on how everything turns out, because now they have been arraigned before the court a couple of times. In the event that trial would have to take place, now evidence would have to be laid by the prosecution or the state to support the charges that have been brought against the accused person. So every crime has certain factors that ought to be present to be able to identify that, oh, this crime has occurred. For instance, if it's unlawful assembly, A, B, C, D has to be present before you can say that unlawful assembly has been convened. If the people gather without authorization, they gather without with the intention of causing communal harm or public unrest or public outrage, whatnot. What are the incidents of the offense? So that is also one thing we are looking at. So yes, they have been charged, but these are the offenses that have been listed. So now in the event that trial would have to go on, or the matter would have to go through a full-fledged trial, that means that evidence would have to be led by the state, because it is the state that has brought the charges against them. So now evidence has to be led to support all of these charges. That's, for example, conspiracy to commit unlawful assembly, or to conspiracy, I think that was what the charge read, to commit unlawful assembly. Conspiracy to commit unlawful assembly, meaning that they were acting together or working together with the unison of mind to ensure that they convene for anything outside the domain of public benefit or outside the domain of public welfare. For example, wanting to impede movement, causing harm, harassing people. There are so many incidents. So the particulars of this situation or the incident of this protest will determine whether this crime can be supported by law or the charge can be supported by law. So in the event that trial would have to go on, now the prosecution have to lead evidence to support the fact that indeed there was unlawful assembly, indeed assault was caused to a public officer, indeed damage was caused to property. Evidence would have to be laid, and then that would determine whether the charges can be sustained against them or not. So that is also one thing that has to be, noted. So that is essentially what I believe will take place. And as for how proceedings are likely to turn out, you can never fully preempt or foretell how legal proceedings will turn out. There have been charges, but everything, as to how trial will turn out, everything boils down to the evidence present. It also boils down to the lawyers that might be involved. It also boils down to the different principles of law that may arise. If there are any defenses that these accused persons can put up to mitigate whatever charges have been brought against them, all of these will come into play. So with the turnout of the trial, it really does depend on evidence, how evidence will be led. It really just boils down to evidence. That is really the essence of a trial, because you would want to lead evidence to support a particular charge or to show that the charge cannot be sustained in law. So that is all that would happen. And then obviously in criminal trials, there is no law that states that the accused person has to prove his innocence, because there's a presumption that a person is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. So even though they have been arrested, even though they have been charged with the offense, and now they qualify as accused persons, in the eyes of the law, they are still innocent until after a full-fledged trial, the judge makes a pronouncement that they are guilty. That is when that presumption of innocence will be rebutted. And this presumption of innocence is very pivotal in our criminal system and our criminal jurisprudence. obviously, it is a problem that has become very worrying and concerning across board, because obviously water is a very vital resource that we all depend on. We use for our day-to-day activities, and we have heard and seen some of the repercussions of the Galamsey. They have impurified our water bodies, they have caused children to be born deformed in one way or the other, and it's sad to see that we are actually living the side effects of the Galamsey. So moving forward, I think that it is, as I said yesterday, it's still very commendable that the people of the country care. We are all very concerned. I do believe that what we want to see now moving forward is the proactivity in the law. People want to see the law work and ensure that the perpetrators of these heinous crimes are brought to book, because people repose a lot of confidence and trust in the justice system. They always believe that, you know, the law should work for our good and in our favor as citizens and as humans. That is why we live by them. That is why we repose so much trust and confidence in the legal system and in our laws. So I think that we are past, or we have gone past just, you know, sitting back and seeing and hoping. Like, people actually want to see laws being implemented to ensure that this, you know, issue of Galamsey that has been resurfacing for years on end, such that unfortunately at this very point in time, in this very year, it has crossed the inexplicable peak, such that people are so worried, and that has resulted in the status quo. So I think that people want to see a change. People want to see that the law should work, and to ensure that people want to see that if the law truly does work, those who have been committing these crimes, those who have been inciting and encouraging the commitment of these Galamsey activities, are made to face the full rigors of the law, and to ensure that our society and our environment is not degraded such that generations to come will not benefit from basic resources such as water, specifically clean water. So I think that is what people want to see, and that is the expectation of every Ghanaian moving forward, after we have been able to and are still creating awareness about this gruesome social problem that has eaten into our society today.